Assalamualaikum. Today we are going to start a very interesting topic, that is press conference, its preparation and the process. So first of all, we are going to discuss what is a press conference. We are going to get a brief introduction of the topic. Then in the preparation section, we are going to talk about what are the steps that are involved in preparation of a press conference, and in the processing we are going to talk about what to do before, during and after the press conference. So let's move on to introduction. A press conference is also called news conference or news briefing. It's a kind of media interview. It's a media event in which newsmakers like politicians or prominent figures invite journalists to hear them speak and most often ask questions. We have also a joint press conference instead, and this is held between two or more talking sides, like press conference between two political parties. News conferences are often held by politicians, by sports teams, by celebrities or filmmakers, by commercial organizations to promote products, by attorneys to promote lawsuits, and by almost anyone who finds benefit in the free publicity afforded by media coverage. In a press conference, one or more speakers may make a statement which may be followed by questions from reporters. Sometimes only questioning occurs, sometimes there is a statement with no questions permitted. It's an organized event, which means it has a proper structure and order. The next question is, why are press conferences important? They are very useful and actually play an important role in the society as a whole. Political and business announcements are made efficient by these press conferences. And celebrities or other public figures also benefit from these press conferences. Then we have some more benefits for press conferences, that they are helpful in information distribution. If a political party wants to start a campaign or they want to bring about a new change in the society, they can have a press conference and they can share this knowledge through journalists to the masses. It's a helpful response tool if there is an emergency situation or whatever, a new situation in the country. The politicians may take help from the journalists to respond to that situation. And also it's a very good public relations tool. The politicians or the famous figures, they can build a rapport with the general public through press conferences. And it's a useful advertising alternative, and business companies may take advantage of it. Then the next question is, why do businesses hold press conferences? It's very much important for the businesses to have press conferences. They can announce changes in the organizational structure, such as changes or transitions in the management and leadership team. If a new CEO is appointed, it's a good platform to introduce him or her. And you may have heard about previously privately held and owned companies going public, and then they announced this transition through holding press conferences. The other advantages that business firms have through press conferences is to announce the launch of their new products and services or product lines and services. And then they may announce important collaborations or partnerships with other businesses or institutions. The business companies may also address issues or complaints from customers or the general public regarding the products and services offered by the company. And they may use press conferences to publicize an upcoming activity or significant event by a company that you want members of the general public or target market to participate in. Then the politicians also hold press conferences, and they are very much important in politics. So what are the advantages of press conferences for a politician is that a politician ensures that their announcement will have a maximum impact by being in the media, and they don't have to repeat themselves to different reporters in separate interviews. Politicians hold press conferences to defend themselves from the opposing parties, and they also hold press conferences to promote their campaigns. The politicians may also use press conferences to justify and explain their policies to the masses. And finally, they may attempt to prove the fallacy of propaganda, conspiracies, misinformation, or rumors against them through press conferences. The next stage of our presentation is preparing or planning a press conference. They are one and the same thing. You may call it preparing a press conference, or you may call it planning a press conference. So there are different steps involved in this stage. Planning is where you start from scratch and work your way to the point where you are able to execute the press conference smoothly. The success of a press conference relies largely on the planning, and if it's done poorly, it's almost certain that the resulting press conference will not be as successful as expected or hoped for. For preparation, you have to give yourself ample time to plan the press conference, and you don't want to be rushing in the 11th hour. Start planning several weeks ahead of the target date of the press conference. Not only will this ensure that you will have more than enough time to get everything together, it will also give you more room to make adjustments if and when necessary. So in the preparation, the first thing is the topic. In the topic, you are going to ask questions to yourself. The first question will be, what message do you want to convey during the press conference? The second question can be, what is the announcement that you want to make? And the third can be, what are the issues that your company wants to address? So you have to be very much clear on the message or the topic so you won't be diverted during the press conference. And the topic will also be prominently displayed in the press kit that you will be distributing to the press. So you have to make sure you have all the correct details here. The next important point for preparation is the date and time of the press conference. This is very much crucial because when scheduling a press conference, you cannot pick just any random date and time to have the press conference or base it solely on which day of the calendar is blank. Or when the senior management members who will be speaking in the press conference are free. No, it's more than that. And remember that you will be inviting journalists and reporters to your news conference, and they are accustomed to go where the newsworthy events are. If the news or information that you will share during the press conference is not relevant or newsworthy for them at that particular time, they are more likely to ignore you and look for other more relevant and newsworthy events instead. So you have to be very careful in the selection of date and time. And here are some tips. How are you going to select the date and time for the press conference? Pick a date when the interest of the journalist for your announcement will still be high. Don't put it off for too long to the extent that your announcement will no longer be of any interest to them. Pick the time of the day when the press conference will be conducted. Journalists are very busy people, and if you hold it too late in the day, they may not come because they will be too busy working on their news articles for the next day. Choose a time when you can get the highest attendance by media, ensuring maximum press coverage. Finally, ensure that there won't be a conflict in the schedule. If there is a conflict and there is any other press conference going on that day with the potential of drawing the attention and the interest of journalists from you, you should also consider the schedule of media people that you will be inviting, especially if they have deadlines or equally important events to handle. So another important point for the preparation of your press conference is location or venue. The location must be accessible. That means it must be easy to reach by the journalist. Having a long travel time to get to the location is one way to discourage reporters from attending a press conference, and you don't want that to happen. The next point is the location must be relevant to the event. It means there must be some relation to, say, the announcement that you are making or to the company itself. Some businesses conduct press conferences in their own places of business or headquarters, especially if they have rooms or spaces that are large enough to accommodate big crowds. And also the location must be well equipped, which suggests that the facilities and equipment that you will need in the conduct of the press conference. Consider the availability of network connections, parking spaces for the reporters, and other communication tools and utilities. The next one is that the location should be visually appealing. That means it must be clean and even attractive. Imagine having to hold a press conference in a cramped place with poor lighting and ventilation. If you are a business hoping to make a good impression, then this is not a good way to go about it. For sure, the reporters may no longer want to attend any of your succeeding press conferences. It can affect their impression of your company. And finally, the location must be conducive to interaction and communication, which means that it should not be in the middle of a noisy street where your audience will have a hard time hearing you, or where the managers or spokesperson of the company will have a difficult time concentrating because of too much noise and distraction. So in the preparation, we have one more point to consider, that is select the main players and train them. So there are some players. It's just like having a play. So there are two main players in a press conference: the speakers and the moderator. The speaker or the people who are going to deliver the speech, and moderator is who are going to intermediate and who are going to present some questions for the speaker. During the press conference, the speaker or the speakers will be the face of the business or the company. They are the ones to deliver the message, make the announcement, or answer the questions from the journalists. Therefore, you should not assign just any random person. Even if the speaker is a member of the senior management or one who is fully knowledgeable about the company, he is still not exempt from studying and training for the event. Then the speaker or the main participants must be knowledgeable not only about the topic but other related topics. They may start out by reading a written statement, but when they are going to be asked questions later on, they should be able to readily answer the questions with confidence. And the speakers must be articulate and can speak with command and clarity. They should be able to speak confidently with the ability to command the attention of the audience and engage them in discussion. Whereas the moderator acts as the master of ceremonies, so to speak, facilitating the whole exchange between the speakers and the audience. This person will basically control and regulate the flow of the discussion so that the participants stick to the topic. And the moderator must be experienced with dealing with the press. Normally businesses pick a moderator that has a prior experience in moderating press conferences. And the moderator must have a commanding presence, since this is the person that has to be the one on the driver's seat in control of the press conference. And the moderator must have more than basic knowledge about the topic or the issue. So train the moderators by providing all the necessary materials for the press conference, like reading materials on the topic or issue and other related literature. Conducting a dress rehearsal is also encouraged, as it will put the moderator and the speaker in a simulated conduct of the press conference. Then we have to identify the media representatives to be invited in the press conference. Firstly, you have to come up with a list of journalists, reporters, and media personalities that you want to invite to the press conference. Pick the journalists that work on beats related to your business or have an interest in the announcement or issues that you will make or address. We have another point here for the preparation of a press conference, that is to write and distribute the press release. Consider the press release as your invitation to the media for your event, which is the press conference. In your press release, indicate the following points: the date, time, and location of the press conference, the reason why you are holding a press conference, and why the journalist should attend the press conference. So all these things should be in your press release. At least a week before the scheduled date of the press conference, send the press release to the media people you want to attend the event. And on the day before the press conference, contact them again for final confirmation and as a final reminder of the press conference the next day, because the journalists are very busy people and they may forget your invitation or press release. And the next point is that you are going to distribute the press kits to the journalist or the audience in your press conference. So what are these press kits? During the press conference, you are going to distribute it, and the press kits are actually the folders containing the information about the topic, message, or issue that will be tackled during the press conference. Information, so now coming to information that is provided in a press kit is information on the speakers or other participants of the press conference, information on the topic including supporting documents such as photographs, case studies, and even related news stories, articles, or other published materials. And finally, a copy of press release. It's better to have some extra copies of press kits in case more people are coming to your press conference so you don't face any embarrassment. And then final step in the preparation is to make sure all the necessary arrangements are in place. Naturally, you are expected to oversee the finer details such as the reservations of the venue, if the press conference is to be conducted outside of your place of business, and if you will require the assistance of external parties like for lighting, catering, sound system, and like, you also have to make sure the arrangements are all made properly. Then coming towards the third step of our presentation, that is process or execution of our press conference. So it involves three stages: that before the press conference, that is the planning stage, and then during the press conference, which you are supposed to do, and after the press conference, what you are supposed to do. We are going to discuss all these points one by one. So coming towards before the press conference, you have to check that the venue or location is prepared along with the visuals, the seats, the equipment, the refreshments, and all others. Take note of the seating arrangement as well as the tables and chairs prepared for the speakers, the moderator, and the audience. Provide a means for the participants to log in their attendance. This is for keeping a record of attendance for future reference. You can also use it as a means of collecting information like phone numbers from journalists, and such information can come in handy in future, definitely. Make sure the participants, the speakers, and the moderator are prepared for the press conference. Have some welcome the participants as they arrive, handing their press kits to them. It will create your rapport with the audience. And start the press conference on time. So, what you are supposed to do during the press conference, document the press conference by recording it on video. It's possible that media may request for any footage you may take of the event for future reference, and try as much as possible to stick to the schedule, such as the amount of time allotted for each speaker. Allow the moderator to lead the flow of the question and answer portion with press people, and end the press conference by thanking everyone who attended. So while you are presenting your information, make sure that you are going to keep it brief. Don't go for unnecessary details. And then you have to say what you need to say and then stop. If you have more than one speaker, brief each one to make 3 to 5 points. The whole press conference should last no more than 45 minutes, including questions. Focus on the story that you want to tell. Journalists are busy people, and if you can give them a story that they can use, it makes their lives much easier. This makes it more likely that they won't go looking for another angle, but will use the one that you have given to them. If you don't give them a story, they will find their own and you may not like it. Then you have to respond to the questions during a press conference, and this is probably the difficult part of managing a press conference because you don't know what's going to come up. The journalist may come up with different questions. So prepare as much as you can beforehand by working out what might be asked and putting together a good response to each difficult question. It's a good idea to practice with someone pretending to be the journalist. If you have more than one person speaking at the press conference, agree beforehand who is going to answer which types of question. Also make sure that your moderator is alert to questions that are outside the scope of the press conference, particularly if they are hostile. They need to be ready to jump in and say something like, I'm afraid the question is outside our scope today. Would anyone like to ask a question about the material that we have discussed today? Okay, so this was during the press conference. Now we are coming towards what you are supposed to do after the press conference. Review the documentation or recording of the press conference. This is so that you can see where you fell short in the conduct of the press conference. It's also one way to ascertain whether the messages were delivered.
It's 9 o'clock.
Contact the media people and outlets represented in case they may need something else from you, such as additional press kits or documentation. You definitely want to establish a good relationship with the press and keeping in touch with them. You can start by thanking them for their attendance. So that was all about our topic today related to press conference, the preparation of press conference, and then execution of the press conference. In